So best practices for closing the steps. We'll start off by completing the transactions processing for both transactional processing as well as approval workflows. We would like to make sure that our 1099s have been updated, and in a second I will show and discuss how we can do so. We want to go ahead and post all the closing entries, which also would be the subledgers, reconciling cash and credit card accounts. We would like to tie out our accounts as well, and doing one last final review, because once we do that final review, when we close those subledgers and lock the previous periods, we can no longer change them back. Run reports and review for accuracy, and lastly would be closing those general ledgers and subledgers. Okay. All right. So we'll starting off with complete all transaction and workflow processes. We want to approve and post the AP bills and payments to the vendors. We want to confirm that the issuance of checks as well. We want to apply all receipts thoroughly to outstanding receivables for customers. Any payoffs, credit card payoffs, we want to handle those accurately. We want to ensure proper processing of resulting APs bills. We want to address any pending purchasing transactions by either approving them or converting them. Ensuring timely approvals and payments of the expense reports. If we are doing payroll, we want to make sure that those timesheets are also approved. Okay, let's go over to the 1099 updates now. We want to thoroughly review those vendor and bill settings for the 1099 taggings. So again, I will show you how we can navigate to that, but we'll go to vendor record and we'll click on that additional information and we'll see the 1099 detail. So we just want to confirm that those 1099 form, the box, the default settings, the tax IDs, and the name, they match exactly on how they should be. And we could always run a 1099 report in the accounts payable module. And again, I'll show you that once we get in the demo side of things. We want to set report parameters, to the past calendar year and select the relevant 1099 forms. We want to run reports to show all transaction informations and just making sure that they're all correct for the vendor records, individual bills, or if we, mass upload them as well. Okay, let's go ahead and go to posting all closing entries. We want to go ahead and identify and process any of the necessary accruals, reversals, deferrals. So that would consist of posting depreciations and amortization entries, recognizing or deferred revenue and expenses appropriately, updating the balance or activities in the statistical accounts, and then address any outstanding payrolls or any other accruals that we may have out there still. Okay, let's go ahead and go to the next one, which is reconciling your cash and your credit card accounts. So this is just simply you making sure that your bank and your credit card accounts have been reconciled, that there's no more pending bank recs out there. We want to confirm that all the financial activities are accurately recorded and all the way to the end of the period. And then lastly, just executing a formal payoff process in the cash management, making sure there's nothing left in there and everything is converted to the AP bills. Okay, so now coming to performing major account tie-outs. So first thing I like to do is run my ledger report with my aging report and trial balances. But before we do that, if you click on disallow direct posting in the general ledger accounts, um, that is turned on, then the system will allow for it to post to the control accounts. That way you won't have to run these tie-out reports. But if you have that turned off, then it would go as follows: the AR ledger to the customer aging and the trial balance, the AP ledger with the vendor aging and trial balance, and then on the expense side, it'll be the expense ledger to the employee aging. And then you pretty much just want to confirm that the inventory valuation matches your inventory GL account balances. And these are all reports that are in the system as well. Aligning the net book value with the fixed assets, and then lastly the prepaid net book value to the prepaid GL accounts. Okay, and then when we get to running reports to review for accuracy, we will start out by generating those and reviewing the month-end reports. So that consists of the balance sheet, the income statement, assess the comparisons between the budget and the variances, and just making sure there's no anomalies out there. Analyzing the key performance indicators and the stats. Again, those are a quick way to see is just going on the dashboard and reviewing those. Reviewing management reports, any other relevant reports for your organization, which will come in handy. Verifying and updating those 1099 AP payments for the year end. And this, again, will be the last part before the close. So you just want to make sure that they're all accurate. And that pretty much consists of running the 1099 reports, ensuring all payments are correctly categorized. If they're not, adjust those 1099 vendor defaults for your current and your future reporting needs. That way, there wouldn't be too much work for the following year. Okay. And then the next one was going to be closing your book. So secure and lock down those verified data from the previous periods. You can lock it, set those permission parameters where admin roles could only have access to it if there is ever a time that it needs to be opened. Individually closing those subledgers and including AP, time and expense, AR, cash management as needed. Say if you tied up the AP, but you need to tie up the cash, you can just close out one of those subledgers while you have the other ones open. And again, just making sure that nobody else goes into that system aside from who is permitted to do so. That way, there's no confusion, there's no missing few dollars here and there. And then lastly, you just conclude by closing the general ledger books. You can do it collectively, individually, from the top level, or even by entity. Okay. So yeah, the virtual close, retain earnings and Sage Intacct is here to be easy for you guys. And as I go through the demo, that will kind of help better understand where you need to go, how we can bookmark things and favorite things. So it's just one click away. I will go ahead and share my screen, Ed. I'll take over and start showing the demo side of things. 1 second. Okay, perfect. Okay, so let's go ahead and go back to the home page, and we'll start off from the beginning. So first thing we'll like to look at is the company checklist that we go ahead and created. Okay, so I have my year-end close. I also have, let me just get rid of this filter. I have month-end closes too, so not sure if anyone out there is utilizing these, but if they are, it'll be the same thing as just setting up a month-end close, but it'll just be a year-end close, and we'll go ahead and take a look at this. So we have our assignment names, just listed a few assignments just for this example. So approving bills, your bank record, credit card reconciliation, closing subledgers. If we have prepaid amortization, fixed asset depreciations, we'll list those all out. We'll add start dates and due dates to these. And then we can also, if I click on edit, I can go ahead and assign this to a specific person. And that way you will get that, they will get that notification as well as you once it is completed. So adding those dates, saying, okay, this should have been done. Is it done? The assignment looks like the status is completed. So this one, as you can see, the credit card reconciliation is still in progress. And then the last three have not even been started. But you can go ahead and add the percentage completed if it is in progress. For instance, we can just say, okay, 50% is completed, and it should be completed by the end of day. And you can add the comments over here, any attachments if needed as well. That is the checklist. The next part I would like to talk about is the approvals. So for instance, if there's a bill out there that needs to be approved, I will go to approve bills. And it looks like there's one left, so I can take a look at it by viewing it or just approving it if I already knew this one's supposed to come in and it's supposed to be ready to go. So by clicking approve, the AP specialist or you as the manager or even a clerk can go ahead and pay that bill. And then if the payments approval is set up, then it'll go through that payment approval as soon as they create that payment for the bill. Once that is completed, then you can go on to your next step and check it off your checklist, and then it will be running reports. So I have two reports favorited over here, which is my trial balance report, my general ledger report. There are more reports on the module side of things. So if I want to do vendor agings, I have that report that I can run. If I need to take a look at any of the registers, whether it's bills or checks, I can do so, or even the AP ledger. We talked about the 1099s. We have that 1099 report over here. So if I go ahead and click on that, I will go ahead and do prior year. So I'll go all the way down, click on prior year, and then scroll on down over here, and it'll be my 1099 forms. So you can add or edit these. Anything that you don't want to be selected, you can go ahead and deselect them. But if you want to go ahead and add everything, we can go ahead and do so. We want to have the transaction information to show all. So change it from only 1099s to show all. And the reason we do that is maybe mistakenly one that should be a 1099 isn't selected as one. So when we run this report, we can go ahead and see that. And then I go ahead and choose this as a detailed so that I have a little bit more information. And then lastly, we want to go ahead and choose our location, which is our entity. So for instance, I want to go ahead and choose specific entity. If there's groups of entities that you want to run, you can go ahead and do so. I currently don't have groups listed on my entities. But if there are groups, you can always run them as an individual report by just checking this box. And we'll click on view. Oh, I wouldn't have. Let me change the date. The specific demo environment has data back in 2019, so let's see if I can run a report that actually gives me data. Oh, that's why. Let me remove this. There you go. And then we'll just go down that list, making sure that each vendor that needs to be a 1099 on a 1099 is or not. So for instance, Tom Klein is not, and it shows as a non-1099. And you just go down that list, confirming. If we do need to go and make some adjustments to the vendor, we can go ahead and do so. So for instance, I want to just click on this, and let's just say this is a 1099, but it doesn't show here. So we'll go ahead and click on add the name of the 1099. We'll go ahead and click on the form, and we'll add that form name. So let's just say that this is a non-employee compensation. We'll check the box, whichever is applicable for that specific vendor. We'll go ahead and select. And if it's for a specific entity as well, we'll go ahead and add that. And then we'll go ahead and click on save. And then, yep, it's just as easy as that. And then once you click on save for the actual vendor, it just wants to confirm. Select how you want to apply updates to transactions that have been already tagged to the 1099 treatment. So you can update all transactions for this vendor that are tagged for the current year only, and then modify them, or you can do for the prior year and the current year, or no updates. So let's just say I want to just go ahead and make sure that I have it for last year as well, since it should have been a 1099. And then in this specific view, you do have your 1099 form. So I have this 1099 view for myself. And I could always toggle out of it, but clicking on it, I want to add the 1099 form type, the 1099 box, and should be the name here somewhere. But you would add the name if you need that as well. So I also have that 1099 report tagged in my bookmarks, so I can easily run it. And then the next part I like to show is just the dashboard. So say that my role is the controller and I'm looking over the closing. I have the close through summary here, so seeing what has been closed and what has not been closed. My general ledger, my AP, AR, expenses and cash managements, my checklist. Again, like I said, if you have monthly closes, then you can check those off as well. And then you have your KPIs, your reports, your charts to run anything that may look, I guess, odd in the report. We can go ahead and drill down into it. Anything that has to do with approvals will be on the side set up for you. And this as easy, just if it's not currently, you can just set it up by just clicking on that plus button. Just ensuring that you do have those permissions. If you do not, just reach out to your admin. Okay. Once those are all completed, I could do one of two things. I can go to the specific module and go to the subledger and close them by subledgers, or I can also close them in my general ledger. Once those are closed, and we know for sure that there is never going to be any adjustments needed for that prior year, we can go ahead and just lock it. That way, no one else can go ahead and reopen it once it has been locked. And yeah, that is the demo side of things. I will, Ed, if I can have you share back your screen, we'll go over some tips and tricks. Perfect. So just having documents of your closing process. Again, we showed that checklist, how we can use that checklist. It's also, you can add that into your dashboard. That way you do have a live feed on what's going on with that specific close. Using, sorry, my mic went in and out. What reports to generate when you tie out those performing a period end close, making sure that 1099 process and reports are all completed and tied out, and making sure there's everything have been pretty much set to maybe your prior and your current, just so that is all updated. If you have report groups, you can add those, as well as again, that closing dashboard. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So this is kind of where you start and how you should end off things. So you start out with that pre-close checklist. You go through that closing checklist, and then the area of your post, closing, and then your year-end review for that checklist, making sure everything is good. There's no more variances, anything standing out before you lock that year. Okay, let's go to the next slide. And then here's a few more, just kind of stating the period end close reports. So again, the trial balance, income statement, balance sheet, you don't want to make sure that your reconciliation are all reconciled and tied out, as well as any of the other expense reports and reimbursements and fixed assets. Okay. And then just again, reiterating your vendor data verification, 1099 eligibility checks, reviewing those transactions, You can e-file those 1099s, making sure and verifying those e-filing statuses, and just retaining those documents. Just in case if anything does happen, we do have documentation on it. And then report groups and closing dashboards. So again, I just showed you a few examples. You can add more to them, which is the financial statements, the TB expense reports, any type of financial ratios, statuses of those period close, any audit trails, and year-end performances. One thing I did forget to mention was on the e-filing, we recommend that you use tax bandits, as we see that has been the most positive outcome with Sage Intacct. If there are any out there, please let me know anything that you've had more of a better experience in, but we do recommend tax bandits. Okay, and then additional tips and tricks for any companies with high volume: spread your close and start early. We don't want to, have people working overtime and last minute because we started a little late. Uploading, including all your attachments whenever it's possible. I know, again, when we're doing the close, things get out of hand, and maybe one file is bookmarked in another file, and we just forget to add those attachments. So whenever you have that chance, you just drag and drop, drag and drop. Use separate journals for your closing entries. Using, memorized journal entries or transaction templates, creating those closing dashboards, report groups that should be created, and again, tax bandits, and always review release notes for system improvements. There could be, some type of new automation that's come out that you are not aware of. So again, they have those on the homepage. You can read those release notes. Okay. Now coming down to the common issues. So an aging report does not tie out to the subledger report. So for instance, the as of date are likely not exactly similar, but specifically for the transaction date versus the GL posting date. Your resolution is just to run both the GL posting dates, run reports based off of those GL posting dates, I'm sorry. Ensuring that both reports as of dates are the same as well. The next is the subledger does not tie out to the general ledger. So the common causes for those could be only transactions made in the subledger will, present in both the subledger and the GL reports. There's likely a manual GL activity on that subledger control account that's, creating some type of discrepancy. So a resolution to that would be run the GL report just for the subledger controlling GL account, and thoroughly review the journal columns, which is the subledger journal goods, the GL journal, once the GL is reviewed. Remove any type of discrepancies if needed, recreating through the subledger. And then after that tie out, let's go ahead and click on that disallow direct posting on the subledger control accounts to lock it down. That way you don't have to come across this tying out issue. Third is the bank rec does not tie out. So a few of the reasons could be the bank statement ending balance was not correctly entered, or the statement period and scope is not correct, or there's likely a transaction missing from your books in the reconciliation period. So all you can do is just click edit or restart that reconciliation to modify the statement balance and confirming the periods. Or you can use the bank feed import feature, which has auto match functionalities to create more of a smooth transaction. That way there'll be less transactions for you to match. Again, if you need help with creating those matching rules or creation rules, we are here to help you out with those. They do get confusing sometimes, depending on how it's set up. And then lastly, the vendor 1099 update did not have correct transaction tags. So the reason is the AP ledger must be open before the calendar year is intended to be mass updated. The resolution for that would be open up the GL or the AP subledger back to the first month of the current prior calendar year. The other resolution would be maybe the AP summary batches also need to be opened up. Or what you can do is maybe just reclassify those bills by just clicking edit and reclassifying individual bills. And then lastly would be to update the 1099 transaction import template so you can import them as a mass bill update. And yeah, that's pretty much what we have here. Key takeaways, again, defining your closing process, document your processes, which is to complete those transaction workflows, post period end accruals, do your reconciliations, have that final review before closing those books, and once it is closed, just review it. If there are any improvements that need to be made or any adjustments for the next year, go ahead and document those. If there's any automations, I guess,